All right, so in this video, we're gonna talk about some QuickBooks hacks. And specifically, we're gonna talk about a scenario where you own a chain of your own retail stores. And what you wanna do is you are manufacturing your own products. You're manufacturing either cookies or brownies or truffles or juice or gelato or ice cream or whatever it is, but you're manufacturing product in one location and you want to be able to manage not only the profit and loss for making that product, but you also want to be able to distribute it and account for that inventory being transferred to your other locations. In most businesses, especially when you're in the sales business or in the manufacturing business, on the service business, it's very easy to invoice customers and you send them an invoice, they send you a payment, you record the payment, it's very simple. What gets a little more challenging is when you're invoicing inventory to your own company, because it's unnecessary for that cost center that you've sent inventory to have to pay with a credit card. It makes it very difficult because you're paying the merchant fees on that. And so we're going to talk about just a scenario and some things that you can do to manage that. So let's go. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to create our own internal distribution system in QuickBooks where you want to have your own manufacturing commissary and then transfer or sell those items to your other stores. And the tricky thing here is how those locations are paying for it. You don't want to have those locations paid via credit card, because what ends up happening is you're going to pay the merchant charges on that, which is kind of stupid. So QuickBooks has some, QuickBooks Online Plus has some abilities to do this. There's a little bit of work and there's a little bit of setup. And so there's 4 things that we need to do. We got to set up some chart of accounts. We have to set up your inventory items. We have to set up a credit memo method of payment. And we have to create the users if you want them to use QuickBooks, if you want them to use the QuickBooks app on a phone so that they could invoice the locations, that system. So we're going to go through each one. So the first thing is we'll go through chart of accounts. Now I've gone ahead and I've already done this. We're going to create an asset line for every store that is going to have your assets. So we're going to use juice as an example. So I've got my bottle juice asset and I've created an asset for each one of my 3 locations, okay? The next thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that I have my wholesale lines set up. So I have the juice wholesale line set up. This is going to be the sales line for your distribution warehouse. This is going to be where the distribution warehouse receives credit and gets sales income for that inventory. And the next thing we need to do is create a wholesale line to charge the other stores the cost of goods for the inventory that you're using. I just want to go back here real quick and look at one more thing on the asset line for those stores that have a question on the asset. It should be other current asset, detail type, other current assets. Bottle juice, I use 1500 as a sub account, and there's no starting inventory. So just as a side note there, we can go through. So once we have that set up, what we're going to do is we're going to set up our products and services. And it's really simple. You would basically go to new products and services and create a new inventory item here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I've already pre-filled some of these out, and we'll show you kind of what this looks like. So I've created a name, I've added a fictitious SKU number. I don't really need to assign this to any cost center at all. I've set it up as an inventory asset. The sales price that I'm going to be selling it for is $3. And I've also signed a $3 cost of goods, which is what it requires us to sell that to sell that item from the distribution warehouse. From a retail standpoint in Square or your POS system, we actually sell those juices for $6. But in this situation, we're just managing the inventory internally between your warehouse and your stores that you're selling it from. So we'll go ahead and get out of this here. So now that we have those items set up, you're going to want to also set up your payment methods. You want to create a new method of payment called credit memo. And this is just a fictitious payment for transferring monies internally between your own organization. So we got that. I already did that earlier. If you have questions on that, just email me. So now what we're going to do, we've made our juice. We need to transfer it to the stores. So if you use a computer, you're just going to hit the plus line and go to sales receipt. And with the sales receipt, we're going to go ahead and bill the Kiva Juice store just like that. We're gonna charge them immediately. The method of payment is going to be the credit memo that we selected earlier. And we need to determine where we're depositing that inventory. In this situation, if you remember, we created the 1500, we created these asset lines. So we're going to be depositing the inventory or the money into that line for that particular cost center. And so as we go right here, I'm going to say we've got the Flu Buster. So we're going to hit Flu Buster. Let's say we ordered, we'll go Flu Buster, bam. We ordered 100 bottles of the Flu Buster, and then we'll do the green with energy here. I like that one's exciting. And we ordered 100 bottles right there. Okay, and you can see here, if I move this over, we've got a total sale amount. Oh, we've got to choose the class. The class here is your warehouse. Very important. The class is the warehouse that is going to get credit for that sale so that you can have a proper manufacturing profit and loss statement for that cost center. And so we're going to go hit here and we're going to hit save and close. And boom, we've done it. If we go back into all sales, we can see that we have this payment of $642 that we've generated. So now let's go take a look at our profit and loss statement by class. And if we look at today, you can see that the South Reno store had a sale for $600 from juice that they sold to Northwest Reno. So now, how do we charge Northwest Reno for that usage? Well, what we're going to do is this. We're going to go back into our chart of accounts, and if we look at that chart of accounts here, give that a second to load. I'm going to hit 1500 for our inventory asset line. I can see that the Northwest Reno store has a $652 of an asset for juice. What I can do either weekly or monthly, depending on the POS system you have, you can actually go in here and you can go to sales. And if you wanted to, you can go to sales, and if you wanted to, I'm going to choose my stores, all locations. I'm going to deselect this, and I'll hit Las Brisas, and we'll just do that for last month. And I want to go to category sales. I can sit there and go to my juice line and figure out how many units they sold, multiply that times $3 and get my usage. That would be one way to calculate what the usage would be. If you're on cash basis accounting, what you can do is just simply do a journal entry, and I've hit the plus there. There's my journal entries. I'm going to debit my cost of goods line for juice, which should be a 5,000 line. So we're going to go down here, and it's going to be bottle juice 5405 cost of goods bottle juice, and we're going to debit our Las Brisas store here. And what we're going to do is we're going to credit our asset line for Las Brisas. So we'll do that. So we basically debited our cost of goods line and we've credited our asset line for Las Brisas. And so if I save and close this and I go back into it, we'll go to 1500 here. You can see that my asset line for Las Brisas is 0. If I view that register, you can see that I've transferred that inventory out. And now if I go to my profit and loss statement and I go profit and loss by class and I look at today and I run this report, I can see that now Las Brisas has a cost of goods. They haven't sold anything because I haven't pulled any of my sales in. But if I ran it for the month, we'll go ahead and run it for the month, this month, and I were to look at what this profit and loss statement looks like, I have my Las Brisas store, there's all of my sales, and then when I get to my cost of goods, I have this $642 line that was generated from my South Reno store. If I look at my South Reno store, I can also see that I have this wholesale juice line, because this store is actually a physical location as well. It actually has customers, but we manufacture out of this location as well. So that's one way of doing it. Some other just tips and tricks if you use the QuickBooks app on the iPhone. So if you use the QuickBooks app on the iPhone here, QuickBooks app, you can create your own account users. So you can create an account user just for your distribution center. So when they're sending out juice, when they're sending out gelato or cookies, whatever, they can generate that information if you wanted them. I created this one here, John Smith, in real time. And when you do that, what will happen here is there's John Smith. They don't have access to any of your chart of accounts. The only thing they can do is create sales receipts to charge the other cost centers, or they can do invoices or payments and things like that. So it's limited functionality for QuickBooks in terms of how your warehouse charges the other stores. They can go in here if you want it to be delayed. So in other words, instead of just charging it immediately, you can tell them to do an invoice and go through the exact same process where what you're going to do is you're going to basically do the same thing and then charge them on a later day. Or maybe you want to go in on the back end and do that. You can do that through the invoice method as well. And so between QuickBooks and Square or any POS system, it has the ability to do this. If your stores, if you want to create an inventory system where your stores place an order every week, what we've done here is we've created this really neat little juice template that you can do either via Excel or Google or numbers on the Mac. But basically what happens is you require that they do a daily count. And as they do the daily count, what'll happen here is we'll just go ahead here, and I basically said the minimum I want in each store is 7. And then when they do that, they can go ahead and they can just share this, send a copy via email, and I just send it as a PDF. And they can go ahead and they can send that order to your warehouse if you wanted them to. I'll just send it to myself because I'm awesome. And so, the warehouse gets the order, the distribution center gets the order, they'll pick the order, prep it together, and have it ready to go. So, that's a way of doing the order management system. Intuit doesn't allow you to do an internal order management system, so you have to create your own system. There's also some ways to do this in Square, which we will show you on another video. But this is a simple way for you to create a really robust internal inventory management system between all of your stores. So if you like this video, please hit the like button below. send me an email, Gary@wileysprocket.com. We're happy to help you out.